public like to be heard on any matter on the proposed consent agenda, inclusive of CA1 through and including CA20? Dr. Levinson.
Thank you. Nina Levinson, 1560 West Street, Fort Lee. I really just have one question, and it relates to CA 8 through 20. It's the tax appeals.
Correct.
How much money is involved with all of this? I know 3 of them are for individual places, and the other one is, I think, a condo.
CA 8 is a refund of $5,400. 9 represents a refund of $3,200. 10 doesn't have a refund, and 11 through 20 represent a refund of $18,594.
So we have
approximately $2,000 per appeal.
Yeah. I'm asking also, those are the refunds.
Refunds.
There's also a lowering of their taxes to follow. Does that have any impact, this and others? I don't know how many tax appeals are outstanding, but probably quite a few. How does that affect our taxes? And at all?
Well,
this is a small amount, but you know it's cumulative.
Absolutely. And the status of the law in this jurisdiction is as follows, that when you file an appeal and you either resolve it vis-a-vis settlement or court order, typically a body of law known as the Freeze Act is applicable, and that freezes the tax assessment for the next subsequent 2 years, unless there's a borough-wide reassessment, or alternatively, if there's a change in capital improvement or improvements. Having said that, I don't know the specifics of each one, but presuming the Tax Freeze Act applies to each one, those assessments will be frozen for the next couple of years. What's interesting?
Last year, the assessment our total assessment still went up in spite of all the tax appeals.
Correct.
Went up a very small amount, but it still went up.
If it's any consolation to you, Nina, you can rest assured that all tax appeals that are filed are aggressively and vehemently defended. We have a pretty high level of confidence in our assessments. We go out on a limb to make sure, especially with this economic climate, nobody's being overassessed. But again, it's a rather it's a difficult science to deal with exactitude from time to time. So sometimes tax appeals surface, especially in this economic climate where you have declining property values, but you have frozen assessments. But that's not the case for most properties in Fort Lee. I will tell you, knowing how many of the other towns in the area function, we are doing phenomenally well, relatively speaking. And it's a combination of several things: the conservative assessment approach, the aggressive defense of tax appeals, and fair and ethical way of doing business.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public like to be heard on any matter on the consent agenda? Seeing none, motion to close?
So moved.
Second.
Before I take a motion, everyone on the council is available to vote on each one, CA1 through CA20. Hearing no one. Sorry.
There was one.
That might be resolutions.
Sorry.
Everybody's okay, CA1 through CA20?
Yes.
All right. I'll hear a motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Roll.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Selma?
Yes.
Ms. Kozowski?
Yes.
Passes.
Thank you. I also, a little late, but the seasonal employees that are engaged is an exception to our hiring freeze. We still have a hiring freeze here in Fort Lee, but the seasonal employees consist of, for example, employees for our summer camp, various jobs that we have in town. We keep, fixed salaries, clean communities.
Community center and
Correct, community center, parks. We focus on, obviously, and we try, as we may, to focus on making sure our youth are gainfully employed and their time is used in a productive manner. For the record, my children aren't hired. They work in my law office. And I don't want to hear it's not worth it. Having said that, we move on to resolutions. Now, before we proceed with the resolutions, there are 5 of them, and I can paraphrase them for you and then get into a brief statement to the public. But R1 through R5, again, I believe, in my opinion, represents perhaps one of the most historic milestones that this borough has reached in many, many years. It deals with a project which will have an impact on the borough of Fort Lee, as great an impact as, in my opinion, or a greater impact on than any other project has had on this borough since the construction and opening of the George Washington Bridge. And I don't believe that to be an overstatement in any manner, shape, or form. As this town is well aware, and as myself as a lifer, I'm 48, this property, I believe, has been vacant and fallow for 45 of those years. This property relates to what we now call Area 5. It was once known as Centuria, before that the Helmsley Tract. It consists of approximately 2 parcels, just under 8 acres, bounded by Lemoyne Avenue, Main Street, Bruce Reynolds. Dividing it is Martha Washington Way, which then leads to the George Washington Bridge. This town will also recall that this administration, amongst its earliest actions, terminated the relationship with the prior redeveloper, and we immediately instilled a protocol to make sure that the public participated in what was going to be a very transparent, meaningful, and diligent selection process. And that's when we then ordered that 5 town hall meetings take place. We went through a request for qualifications, request for proposals, where anybody that was interested in developing that parcel was invited to participate. Those proposals were submitted, and in fact, there were 4 that were received. We had a town hall meeting for each of those developers, providing the public with an opportunity to come to those meetings, engage in a PowerPoint presentation by that developer, and get into a one-on-one question and answer period. I thought it was a great protocol. It was transparent, and it allowed the public to participate. Because when we started this selection process, I promised myself that I would not allow anyone, and I mean anyone, to take the position that they did not either feel encouraged or they were provided with the opportunity to participate in the selection process. We then held a 5th town hall meeting where we invited the public, discouraged the developers from coming. We certainly couldn't restrict them from coming, but the public was then brought to the podium, and they provided us with what they would do if they were sitting on this governing body, who they would pick, what questions they would answer. We then went through an arduous process on meeting, closed sessions, open sessions, going through financials, conducting investigations, and we ultimately selected a redeveloper for both the east and the west parcel. Thereafter, litigation ensued. Now, the litigation that ensued after we had made our selection was not one because the process was done wrong or because it was flawed. It was because we had the political fortitude to select who, at that time, we thought was the right developer, for reasons which I need not get into at the moment. That litigation is being concluded tonight, and these resolutions will now serve to de-designate the developer that was going to develop the east and the west and redesignate a developer for the east parcel and a developer for the west parcel. Now, what's transpired over the course of the last 6 months has been a very detailed, time-consuming, and diligent contract and settlement negotiation with teams of attorneys from all different directions, from all different sides. I selected an informal committee of council members to participate on a day-to-day basis with the settlement process, which I did participate in. I don't think a day has gone by in the last 6 months, Saturdays and Sundays included, that I've not devoted at least 3 to 4 hours of my day, whether it was dealing with the things in a park, or heights of buildings, or types of uses, or widths of roadways, or timing for approvals, and so forth and so on. I will also tell you this case could have been settled a long time ago, but we had the political fortitude to wait and to make sure that we negotiated what we thought was best for the community and what we thought was best for the public. I get sued from time to time. We get sued from time to time. And folks have said, geez, why are you defending so many lawsuits? Because we don't say yes to everyone. If you have political fortitude and you're able to say no to folks that you don't believe best serve your community, you're going to get named in a lawsuit every once in a while. So if you don't want to support something that you don't think is good for your community, be prepared to have to deal with what we have to deal with. And we deem it to be, I guess, a badge of courage. But having said that, we've reached a settlement that we are very, very pleased with. We've managed to balance the coexistence, and you need to remember these are private property rights that we're dealing with. This is not borough-owned. If we wanted to buy it, I wouldn't even venture a guess as to how much money we would have to bond to buy it and then do what we want with it. So it's private property rights in a redevelopment zone that we've deemed blighted. and managing that with what we think is best for the community. So you need to reach the balance as to making sure that the project is attractive for a private developer, and you need to make sure that it's going to deliver the renaissance that we are all deserving of here in Fort Lake. And during the last 6 months, we believe that we've achieved that. We now have a developer that we're going to designate for the east parcel. The east parcel will be concentrated with residential, 2 buildings. On that parcel, I am very, very proud and pleased to tell you that Fort Lee is going to be deeded a public park, which will consist of an area just under 2 acres, which is one of the many public amenities that are associated with the settlement process that we've endured over the last 6 months. In addition, on that site, I'm also proud to tell you that Fort Lee is now going to get its first local theater, something that we've all been striving for years and years and years. I believe it's a 3-screen theater. We were at 4, we were at 2. That also consumed much of the time over the last few months. We've studied it. We've met with folks that operate theaters, the types of films, the geographic area that we're constrained to, and we are very, very excited about that. I think it's something that Fort Lee deserves. We are the first Hollywood. We're finally getting it, and I'm proud to be a part of it. We then find ourselves on the west parcel, and the west parcel is going to be a retail concentration, where there's going to be essentially a thoroughfare or a T thoroughfare that splits the property, and on each side of that will be retail. It will be the restaurants that we want. It will be the retail that we want. It'll be the types of uses so that on a Friday or a Thursday or a Saturday or on a slow Tuesday night, rather than going to another town, whether it's Edgewater or it's Paramus, here in Fort Lee, we're going to start to stay within our own borough. And that was always the goal. That's always what I was trying to do, what we were trying to do, to create this renaissance. And we do believe that we finally have struck an agreement which is going to be the spark plug for what's going to be the renaissance here in Fort Lee. I've always said this. Fort Lee for years set the pace here in East Bergen County. But we've gotten a little tired, and other towns have also done their share of development. This is now Fort Lee's turn to start setting the pace and becoming the envy of Bergen County as we've been in the past. We've become the envy of Bergen County from a financial standpoint. We're now going to be the envy of Bergen County from an improvement and a building and a development standpoint and a mixed-use development standpoint. There's also a passive park that's proposed on the west parcel, and those details are all struck in the agreement. So I don't want to bore you with all the details except to tell you that the agreements that we're going to approve tonight, the developers that we're going to designate tonight, is the byproduct of upwards of a year of negotiations, of meetings, of Saturdays and Sundays. The effort was given tirelessly and lovingly, because we all recognize that it was one of the most important decisions that Fort Lee's going to have in a long time, and we're proud to be a part of it. So, having said that, I'm going to ask Neil to please read the first heading of each resolution. I will then ask for a motion, but before I ask for a motion, I'll give you a brief explanation as to what that resolution stands for, and any council person is encouraged to provide any comments that they would like to the public before they vote on any particular resolution, either for each resolution or globally for all resolutions. Thank you, Neil. First heading, R1.
Resolution of the Borough Council of the Borough of Fort Lee approving and authorizing the execution of an agreement by and among the Borough of Fort Lee, the Borough, TDC Fort Lee, LLC, and Tucker Development and Acquisition Fund, LP, Tucker, and Fort Lee Redevelopment Associates, LLC, FLRA, for the settlement of litigation regarding redevelopment Area 5 located in the Borough of Fort Lee, New Jersey.
To summarize this agreement in 30 seconds is perhaps what one would call an injustice. There's a lot of information in it, but the most salient terms or the most salient provisions are it serves to authorize and agree to designate Tucker Development to serve as the redeveloper of the western parcel and FLRA to be the redeveloper of the eastern parcel. It also concludes at this juncture the litigation that's pending, and it also talks about a lot of the amenities that are associated with this project. This is the agreement. These are the nuts and bolts that we've been dealing with over the course of the last several months, which are now memorialized onto this piece of paper. With that, do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. And a roll call.
Mr. Polian?
Yes.
Mr. Sommer?
Yes.
Ms. Kozowski?
Yes.
It passes.
Thank you. Before I go any further, I'd also like to read a statement that Councilman Goldberg, who is not in attendance this evening, he's on a long planned vacation with his wife. There were a few delays with this agreement. This was supposed to have been adopted at prior meetings, and Janet continued to reschedule his vacation. He was unable to do so this time, but he asked me to read a statement. Although I cannot be at the meeting tonight, I would like the record to reflect my support for the agreements for the development of Area 5. It has been over 35 years, actually 45 years, that this eyesore has been the first or last spectacle that visitors entering or leaving Fort Lee remember about our borough. I, like many residents, are concerned about density in the borough, but one has to recognize that for a project to be beneficial to all parties, it has to be economically feasible. My compliments to the mayor, my colleagues, Council President Armin Pohan and Councilman Harvey Sommer for their many hours of tedious and painstaking negotiations to bring this development agreement to successful fruition. Councilman Jan Goldberg, thank you. Neil, second resolution, R2.
Resolution of the Borough Council of the Borough of Fort Lee approving the settlement of tax appeals filed by PRIF 2, T&C, and Fort Lee Lemoyne Avenue Acquisition, LLC, for tax years 2009, 2010, and 2011 for the tax block 4851, lot 1.02 Main Street, located in redevelopment area 5.
This resolution relates to the resolution of a longstanding tax appeal that relates to the eastern or the residential parcel, which is the easternmost parcel for redevelopment 5. So as you're approaching the bridge traveling north on Martha Washington, it would be the portion of the property on your right. That's the east. To your left is the west. You know, when I say, just for clarification, when we talk about the east and we describe it as predominantly residential, it's not only residential. We've negotiated, for example, a light coffee use within the park that the borough is going to be able to utilize between the two buildings. There's restaurant space. There's also a public local theater on the corner proposed for Main and Martha Washington. So it's not just residential, but predominantly residential. But this resolution resolves that tax appeal. Do I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Roll.
Mr. Pohan?
Yes.
Mr. Sommer?
Yes.
Mr. Kozowski?
Yes.
Passes.
Next resolution, R3.
Resolution of the Borough Council of the Borough of Fort Lee approving a payment to the special master appointed by the court in the matter entitled Tucker Development Acquisition Fund, LP, and TDC Fort Lee, LLC versus the Borough of Fort Lee, docket number BER-L-5940-10.
This resolution authorizes payment to a special master which was appointed by the court. You need to understand that the litigation that was instituted, the defenses that were proffered, so forth and so on, was very, very lengthy, long negotiation. Part of it were various Oprah requests that were made by the litigants. This was an individual that was appointed by the court, Judge Doyne, correctly?
That's correct.
By assignment Judge Doyne for purposes of serving as the master, if you will, or the person to determine what's a reasonable request, what's not, what should be produced, what shouldn't be produced. And the agreement that we approved in R1 distributes the payments that are to go amongst the parties that are to go to the special master. So, do I have a motion for R3?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Roll.
Mr. Mayor, before we vote, I want to just put on the record that the special master firm that the court appointed, we didn't appoint it, but the court appointed, is a firm that also has represented the company for which I work, New York Waterway, and other affiliated companies of New York Waterway. And yet, as I understand it, we're under court order to approve the payment of the fees that are mentioned in this resolution. Do I understand it correctly?
Yes, Councilman
Do I
Pohan,
need to
and just
recuse
if you,
myself under these circumstances?
no, I don't believe that you should recuse yourself. The court chose the master and chose the law firm. There was no input from any of the parties. The relationship that you just spoke of was revealed in open court to the court. No party objected. The court was comfortable with it. The court has approved the billing and has ordered the payment. It's part of an overall settlement. It is not. It is a very small part of an overall, much larger overall settlement. There's no conflict, and I feel confident that it's all been aired in court, and the court has decided it.
Thank you. Under those circumstances, I will vote yes.
Mr. Sommer?
Yes.
Ms. Kozowski?
Yes.
Passes.
Thank you. R4. Neil, I'm going to ask you to read the heading.
Thank you, Mayor. Resolution of the Borough Council of the Borough of Fort Lee authorizing the de-designation of Fort Lee Redevelopment Associates, LLC, as conditional redeveloper for the entirety of redevelopment area 5, and the designation of Fort Lee Redevelopment Associates, LLC, as conditional redeveloper of block 4851, lot 1.02, also known as the East Parcel, located in redevelopment area 5 in the Borough of Fort Lee, New Jersey.
This resolution serves to de-designate FLRA, Fort Lee Redevelopment Associates. Fort Lee Redevelopment Associates was initially appointed as the developer for both the parcel. This resolution, in accordance with the terms of the agreement that was reached and approved in R1 that I'm about to sign, this resolution de-designates FLRA as the adopted or the appointed redeveloper for the west parcel, so that after this resolution is adopted, in accordance with the settlement terms reached, FLRA will solely be the redeveloper for the east parcel and not the west parcel. With that, do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Roll.
Mr. Polian?
Yes.
Mr. Sommer? Yes. Ms. Kozowski?
Yes.
Passes.
Last but not least, R5. Neil, if you'd read the heading.
Resolution of the Borough Council of the Borough of Fort Lee authorizing the designation of Tucker Development and Acquisition Fund LP and TDC Fort Lee LLC as conditional redeveloper of Block 4851, Lot 1.01, also known as the West Parcel, located in Redevelopment Area 5 in the Borough of Fort Lee, New Jersey.
In R4, the prior resolution, we de-designated FLRA as the redeveloper of the west parcel. And in its stead, we are appointing, by way of Resolution R-5, Tucker Development and Acquisition Fund and TDC Fort Lee LLC as the conditional redeveloper for the west parcel. So after the adoption of this ordinance, we will have FLRA as the conditional redeveloper of the east side, Tucker as the conditional redeveloper of the west side, and God willing, Fort Lee will be moving in the direction of developing this property. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Roll?
Mr. Polian?
Yes.
Mr. Sommer?
Before I vote, I just want to say a few things. This is the culmination of a lot of hours here. Mayor and the committee spent a lot of hours here, a lot of time off. I don't work, but I know some of the committee do work, and a lot of time off from their jobs just to do this. This was just a tireless effort by the mayor. The mayor did this, I could tell you he did this single-handedly. He was on the phone with Richard Tucker. He was on the phone with Alan Goldman. And it just was just a tireless effort by this mayor. This would have never, ever happened if it wasn't for our mayor. And I want to give him accolades for this. Mayor, this just absolutely, I can't wait to see what's going to happen here. I can tell you that the mayor is very enthusiastic about the project. Originally, I voted for FLRA because I thought there was continuity with one. After attending all these meetings, and I find talking to Tucker Development, Richard Tucker, that he has his heart here in Fort Lee. This is going to be a great project for Fort Lee. And again, the people of Fort Lee, the citizens of Fort Lee, we win on this one. There's a lot of things that we have here in this particular, all these designations that we will win. Not only tax money, but we will win on this. This is a winning proposition for Fort Lee, and my vote is yes.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Kozowski.
Yes.
Thank you. Harvey, thank you for those observations. Going to tell you, though, in a million years, I could not have done this without you guys. And I can't even begin to tell you how many times we've had conversations at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning with developments. I mean, Armand, we would pull out of whatever it is that he was doing, all financial questions. And when you say single-handedly, if you're referring to this entire council, great, but thank you so much. And it was an effort that we all did lovingly. And yeah, you know what? I did spend a lot of time doing it because it was important to do it. And I think it was the most important thing that Fort Lee faced, in many, many years. But without you guys, this never, ever would have been possible because you guys always gave me the strength, the right guidance. And by the way, I didn't make all the decisions. The decisions were made collectively. And that's why this group is successful, because we're all open-minded and we all listen. And I want to thank you guys for your time and your effort and your willingness to deal with me, because I put myself in some pretty bad moods during the course of this event. So that's it. Seems anticlimactic, but the adoption of those resolutions took a long time, and we're very, very proud of it. With that, we're at appointments. Sign Facade Review Committee. This is a nomination. We need to select two folks who are already, all three are serving. We need to select two, and there's no particular rhyme or reason as to which particular two, but we've decided a while ago that with regard to the terms on the Sign and Facade Committee, we'd like them to be staggered so that everyone's appointment doesn't mature or ripen on the same year so that we have 5 appointments. So this nomination will effectively serve to appoint two whose terms will then expire on December 31, 2012. I'm going to nominate Andrew Kim and Frank Patty for terms to conclude on December 31, 2012. Do I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Roll.
Mr. Pohan?
Yes.
Mr. Zalma?
Yes.
Ms. Kowalski?
Yes.
Passes.
And again, let me be clear, no reflection on the third candidate. I just did them in the order that was provided. That's just so that we can stagger these appointments. We are at that point on the agenda for council reports. Councilman Pohan.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just my own comments on the resolutions we have passed this evening. Life, if you get to live it long enough, you realize is a series of compromises. And what has been passed here tonight is the result of a very arduous negotiating process. When we started this many months ago, years ago, decades ago, my own preference would have been to have one single developer to develop the entire parcel. Unfortunately, you can't always have your own way in life. The developer who was the fee owner of the West Track, Tucker Development, had a vision and a dream and would not give up its position easily, and started a litigation, and that litigation could have gone on and on and on, and we could have spent another 5 years litigating this process and missed the next resurgence of the real estate market, which is hopefully, if we live long enough, coming soon enough. To that extent, there's been a compromise here in my own mind, and we have agreed to take on 2 developers. I think one of the good things about the whole negotiating process is we've gotten all to know each other much better than we did at the start, much better than maybe we ever dreamed that we would know each other. But that's that's good, because there's going to be a long marriage here between the parties that are involved in these agreements tonight. The Borough of Fort Lee Redevelopment Associates, and Tucker. It's going to take many years to develop this property in its entirety, and the parties are going to have to work together very closely over that period of time to make this successful. So we've had a good taste of what that process may be like, and we've proved an ability among the parties, not always without some differences of opinion, to reach closure on the issues involved. Second, one has to bear in mind here that the real estate market is different than it was 7 years ago when we improved the Centuria project. It's not nearly as robust as it was, and the ability to finance and build a project like this is not as great as it was back then. It will probably never be as great as it was in 2004 when the world was crazy and the banks were mad at their own money, and everybody was going wild. So in order to build this project, it requires more density than would have been required 7 years ago to make this project financially viable. And we don't want to start on something that looks good on paper but fails because it is not financially viable. And I think we've pressed and pushed and pressed and pushed to the farthest point that we can and yet to make sure that this project will be viable. But in turn for that, we have acquired certain things that were beyond, I think, our dreams when we went into this project. We have a much larger public space. We have two public spaces, in fact. One at the corner of Main Street and Lemoyne Avenue. The other at the within the east parcel between the two towers. Two public parks, two public areas for recreation and assembly. More than we had had in the Centuria project. More than